Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our second APTT meeting. Today we're going to talk about what's called social emotional learning, or a whole child. This component will talk about our student climate survey and various things that we're doing at the school to support your child and things that you can do at home. I hope this is beneficial to you as well as a resource. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned to all the things that we're going to share as it relates to data, research, and information. This evening, we're going to cover a few things. So here's our agenda. We're going to do a quick activity to check in, review some data related to student survey, behavior, and attendance, look at some resources that the district and school offers, provide you some at-home supports, and then check out. All right, let's do a check-in. How are you feeling today? On a scale from 1 to 9, place it in the chat and let us know, how are you feeling? Are you a number 1, just want to be curled up in the bed? A number 2, oh my gosh, what's going on? Number 3, don't even bother, I'm not feeling it today. Number 4, yeah, this is all good. I'm loving it. Number 5, okay, what's going on? Something's up. Number 6, you're just happy as this little dog here. Number 7, I really don't want to be here. I want to do something else. Number 8, person looking at you side eye like, really? Or number 9, you are just happy as can be and nothing is bothering you. Let's go ahead and put those numbers in the chat and let's talk about that for about 2 minutes. I'll go ahead and start a timer now for 2 minutes. This is your 1-minute warning. We have 60 seconds left. So what you experienced was a feelings chart of some sort that some of our students will do on Mondays when they do check in with their teachers and do their SEL lesson. And what we do is just to see, how are our students feeling? So when you did this activity, it makes you really think about where you are in that moment in time, and the teacher can understand too where you are so she can adjust herself or himself to ensure that it's a productive day for everyone. Or they might even give the child an opportunity to check in with another adult, or they might give you a call just to see if there's anything that they can do to support your child, or if something occurred the night before or at any point that they need to check in on. All right, let's talk some data. What we're going to look at today is our school climate survey, which our students took. This data set has taken over 2 years. Last year was the first year that we implemented the student climate survey, and this year we took it again. So what we're trying to do is to see how are we doing from year to year, as well as semester to semester. So you'll see 2 different data sets with the same information, but one was from the previous school year and one is for this school year. So let's get to looking at the data. All right, I know I said let's talk about the student climate survey, but really, what is a student climate survey? Well, it takes about 5 minutes. We do it twice a year. We review the data to make any adjustments needed to instruction or school climate. And so basically, we're looking at any type of idea, supports, advice from our culture survey and how students are feeling, how our parents are feeling, which you should have taken one from the district perspective. So we just want to know, how are we doing so we can make adjustments. So now we're going to review the data by grade and some other demographics to see what our students are saying and what group is saying it without them telling us their specific names. So here's a breakdown of the grade level. We have it's pretty balanced from year to year. From last year, we had 36% that was 7th grade, 38% now for this year. So you can see the data is pretty much aligned and consistent. Now we have it looking at the gender. So for gender, we're pretty balanced school. Many of our students identify with their traditional male or female, but we did have a few that identify as binary, trans, or they identify as she, them, but just call me she. So that was one outlier there. And of course, a Walmart bag. Middle schoolers, you never know what they're going to say. But for the most part, they align with one of the traditional genders. Now we're looking at race. We are pretty balanced again. We did increase our Black population from one year to the next, and then our Hispanic population decreased from 10% to 5%. But what was interesting this year is that our multiracial groups, this part right here, when you look at it, that increased 2%. And then we had white added this year that was not consistent with last year. Now let's talk attendance. So we asked students, what would be a barrier that would prevent you from coming to school? Overwhelmingly from the previous year, doctor's appointments was a big concern. Relationships was another one. And then if you think about it, 21-22 school year, we did have some virtual days embedded into our school year. So technology was another one. Taking it to this school year, the bottom here, it's pretty much aligned. The only difference right now is that we didn't alphabetize by numbers, I should say, put it in number order. But doctor's appointments was overwhelmingly another big concern. Transportation issues, another concern for our babies, and then work being too hard. Then we asked, okay, so you're not coming to school. What will make you come to school or encourage you to come to school more? Positive relationships with adults was overwhelmingly shown in both year to year. Academic support, scheduling changes, more incentives. So that's what was highlighted this year. But as you can see, what we have in common with last year and this year, positive relationships and academic success was one of them that they were really wanting us to work with them on. Okay, so then we took it to another level. What about, how do you feel about the respect in the school? How are staff members working to treat all students respectfully? So here we have similar, like the pie chart is looking very much the same. And I will say approximately 72% of our students, 73% of our students this year feel that, well, let's correct that. 43% of our students feel that the staff respects them and treats everyone equally. And that was this year. The year before is pretty much the similar number, because what's happened is the 38% decreased to 32, and this 8 increased to 11. So that's pretty much balanced in some ways to not make a significant change in the data. Now we look at boys and girls being treated equally. Again, our numbers are looking similar from year to year with plus or minus in certain areas. And just to go through, the green and the purple are what strongly agreed or agreed. And then we have the yellow being neutral, red of course is disagree, and strongly disagree is blue. So when we're looking at this data, we're looking primarily at our agreed, strongly agreed, and our disagree and strongly disagree. The students that are neutral, we've got to figure that out too, because that means that they don't care one way or the other. So that is also data for us too. Then we look at equity. How are students from different backgrounds, race, ethnicities, how well do they get along? And just to let you know, we have quite a few ethnicities in the school and backgrounds for culture, from African cultures to South American cultures, to within the city, various types of areas for which we live. And so culture, it matters. That's part of who we identify as. And so again, looking at the purple and the green, half of our students feel that everyone's treated respectfully. Now looking at last year to this year, that number has a 2-digit decrease from having agreed to from one year to the next. So that's an area of concern for us and how we can address this. Then the next thing we ask is, okay, my teacher cares about me, because we heard them in the beginning when they said that they wanted positive relationships. So we went further to understand, what does that mean? Now here we had students that it went from 50% the year before to 42.6% this year. And we decreased the purple from 26.8% to 18%. So in this area, we kind of what we call regress. We went back, which is not what we want. So we now have to figure out, what can we do to increase and improve this rating for our students. So we transition from teachers to the staff as a collective whole. And the question asks, I feel there is a caring adult on staff that listens to me, or that will listen to me. And what was great to realize was that our percentage here went from 32% to 37%, so a 5% increase. And then double digits increases from 14.9% to 26%. So our students overwhelmingly, when you look at these numbers compared to each other, they are feeling that there's staff on board to listen to them. Now we talked about, okay, let's get them into school. We want them to be engaged, not just in the academics, but also activities. So the question asks, are there lots of chances for students at the school to get involved in sports, clubs, and other school activities outside of the classroom? And we actually decreased from this one from last year to this year, but not significantly. You could see the pie chart. It looks like the slice is only from green to green. It's about 1% off, actually 0.9%. The area that we decreased significantly in, which is more than 5 percentage points, is from the strongly agree to the strongly agree. But other areas, we pretty much remain the same. So this is also an area of concern for us. The next question is about, I feel safe at this school. Last year to this year, we had students that moved from 32% feeling agreed that it is a safe school to 26.7%, and then the strongly agreed 14.8% to 10.4%. So this is definitely an area of concern for us. Now we're talking about, does someone that's in this building that I can talk to. I can talk to a student, I could talk to a teacher or other adults at this school about something that is bothering me. If you look at the pie chart, it is pretty similar. Looking at statistically, it's not a big significant difference from one year to the next. So even though there is no difference, there is room for improvement. Because what we're trying to do is get that neutral group to figure out how we can move them, as well as find out what's different for our strongly disagree to disagree. Now we do realize that these are preteens, teenagers taking the survey. So we do have to be conscious that, yeah, we're probably going to have some strongly disagree and disagree depending on the day. We take surveys and give information how we feel. So we are aware that we'll probably have some strongly disagree and disagree, but we want more agree and strongly agree to ensure that we can improve our school climate. So this is an area of concern for us. Anything that's not over 50% in the agree category. Now the next part gets into the classroom and for learning, like teaching and learning. Do they see value or real life connection from what they're learning in the classroom? Now here, kind of the numbers are pretty balanced again. When you look at agreed and strongly agree, we have the varying difference of probably about 3 percentage points that's different from, or I'm sorry, 4 percentage points that's different from one year to the next. The area that grew was the neutral, and so that's an area of concern that we would like to address based on this data for our students. You can see a lot more purple and green. This is one of the areas that stood out for students believe that their teachers expect them to do their best. And so that is definitely something that we are very happy about, that our teachers are setting high expectations and that the students realize that they want them to do their best. And this ties back to that caring adult. So we just reviewed what students are saying. Now we're going to look at data from a different perspective. We're going to look at our discipline data. So the data you're going to see next is the suspension data. And what you'll see is the data is over the school year and year to year, comparison with other schools in our cluster, and just a little tidbit, the higher the number, the more suspensions. So here is where we are. This is Young Middle School right here. We're at 1.57. In comparison to other schools in the district, like I said, the higher the number, the more suspensions. And so you're like, 1.7, what does that mean? So for instance, one child in the school year has 1 day of suspension. So right now we have one child having 1.57 suspensions for the school year. So for me, when I looked at this years ago and I was like, what does that mean? We want to get our numbers lower and we want to show improvement from year to year. And so that's what this means when we look at our discipline data. How can we reduce the number of suspensions and increase our attendance? And currently, the grade level that we have that has the highest suspension rate is our 8th graders. And then our next grade is 6th graders. So this is an area that we are working on as a school to look at and review how can we provide support to our students before it gets to the suspension. So we talked about our suspension data. Now we're going to talk about attendance data. So attendance data, this is where we are as it relates to our cluster, which means our Mays cluster and all the elementary schools. We are sitting right here. We're at 89.9%. Now in this case, the higher the number, which is West Manor, the better the attendance. The lower the number, which is May's, the more decreases they have in attendance. Now, when you look at these numbers over here, red means that they went back from last year to this year. When you see the blue getting darker, that means that there's improvement that we have seen with these students coming to school per school. So at Young, our school goal is 92% attendance rate. Currently, we're at 89.9. When testing comes around in May, we need every single student present and accounted for if they're enrolled. The state says 95%, but we're going to aim for 100 if possible. As a district, when this data set was collected, we are performing higher than the district, which is 87.7, but we're not meeting our goal of 92%. So, what are some things we notice from this data? Students want positive relationships. Students need trusting adults in their lives. Students know we care and want to support them. The students don't have the skills necessary to escalate themselves before they get into a fight. We, which includes the school and the parents, need to determine ways to ensure students are going to class. We will start an intervention program for attendance for students and classes who are present and on time starting in March. Now, we've talked about data, we talked about what we noticed from the data. What are we going to do about the data? So what are some supports? So these are some of the supports we have here for our students. Was social emotional learning, or SEL for short, APS 5, the DEN, and classroom support. And you'll hear something that I'm going to bring up in our next slide or two about the whole child. We want our babies to be balanced, whole person, knowing how to deal with all the craziness that life brings to them. And the other thing that we are learning in this day and age post-COVID is that change is going to happen and we need to figure out how to deal with it. And so those are some of the things that we are going to work on together as a school and community and parents, is how can we build a strong student that can make decisions and basically know how to respond to things that they're not comfortable with. So now let's talk about social emotional learning, where the heart and the brain are supporting each other. So social emotional learning is where we have a set standard or skills that your child needs to thrive through their everyday life. It is commonly described with 5 core competencies, which are self-awareness, self-management, so that's all about you, reasonable decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. That's outside. How do they respond to things outside? So the orange is, in other words, you, the person. The green is everything around you, and then the yellow is how you respond. So you have those 5 competencies, and these competencies allow children and adults to understand their own emotions and the emotions of others so that they can understand their choices and relationships. And so you can see in this chart, it has everything around, like we talked about in the classroom, the school, homes, and communities. We have to figure out together how we're going to build a partnership to support our babies. And then as far as schools are concerned, making sure that there are practices and policies in place. And then in the classroom, similar, we're making sure content, curriculum, and instruction are aligned in this way. And so every Monday, our students go through what's called an SEL lesson, where they are learning about these 5 competencies. And our counselors are the ones that put this together in conjunction with our district to ensure that we are teaching our students how to be self-aware, making decisions, and building positive relationships. So another thing that APS has done is the whole child support, otherwise known as APS 5. Well, what is APS 5? So this looks like a lot, I know, but here is the APS 5 that we're going to focus on. There are 5 areas dealing with data, curriculum and instruction, personalized learning, and signature programs. Today we're focusing on the whole child and intervention. And it's implement a whole child system of support that integrates social emotional learning, there we have that word again or statement again, behavior, wellness, comprehensive academic intervention plans. And so this is something our district has implemented and we are supporting here at Young. So now what does that look like from a school? So what is the DEN? This is one of our school support in addition to our classroom teachers and other staff members providing support to our students. The DEN offers 4 areas of support called core pillars. The first is social emotional well-being, the next academic success, the third basic needs, and lastly access and exposure. We came to these 4 wolf strides over a couple of months with teacher, parent, and student input. And what we discovered is that students needed some type of support while they navigate these middle school years that sometimes is very challenging and definitely unique to them because they're in that in-between stage. So it allows them to have a holistic support system that is provided through the school. So if you recall, I stated that we got some student input, and that's one of the essential part of the DEN process and what we call whole child wraparound, is that we need to hear from our students and our families. So one of the questions from a survey that I did with our 8th graders, which was during the COVID time, was what is something we didn't know about you, but if we had known, we could have helped. And so one thing that stood out to me was, and there are several that did, and that's why they're on the slide, but stuff was happening at home. I was depressed in 6th grade behind closed doors. I lost plenty of people. I have low self-esteem. I was in an accident. I have social anxiety. Anxiety came up a lot. Trying seems hopeless. And then the one that stood out to me, which I started off by saying, is no one listened to me. And so that really brought home to us that we needed to create a mechanism, a support system, and just something for our kids so that they had caring adults that would listen to them. And if you recall back in a couple of slides before, one of the survey questions was, there's a caring adult here to listen to us. And that has been our goal and focus. So you can see that we have seen strength and growth in that area. And so now we got to figure out what's next. So again, the middle schooler, we're unique. They're very unique from their emotions to how they interpret information. And they need support in how to think, reason, and remember information. So how can you use and access the DEN? Well, students can do referrals for themselves through the counselor or directly to the DEN. Parents can also do a DEN referral. And then the leadership team can also make DEN referrals. So how can you access the DEN referral? Well, go to our JCY webpage, and then you'll see on the right side important Young headlines, and you'll see the referral for the DEN. Just click on it and fill it out. Now, what is our process at the DEN? Once a referral is made, it goes to the DEN, and a staff member reviews it and makes the necessary referral to the specific person. In 48 hours, you should get a confirmation email or call, and then your student will get services. If you do not get a response or need to discuss the situation in more detail, email me, Keisha Gibbons, kgibbons@aptsk12.org, to get a time to review the details of the situation. And I'm pretty prompt with responses to emails. So once I get the email, I will immediately respond with setting up a time so we can talk. What are some things you can do at home? So at home, help your child develop organizational skills. So ask them to put things up, write things down, checklists. What are your plans for the next 2 months? Like having them to develop those skills with your support is helpful. So one thing we would love for you to help them with, and this is in your control, is to schedule appointments before or after school. Even if the student comes to school for a partial day, they get that credit for the classes they attend versus it being a whole day suspension. Assist your children with developing a schedule or routine at home. Like when are they going to study or do their schoolwork? From 6 to 7, I'm going to do my schoolwork, and then I'm going to social media or watch TV for another hour. So from 7 to 8. Then I have a routine of doing my dinner or what have you for another hour. And then finally bedtime. That is critical. Sleep. Our students, we found they're spending a lot more time social mediaing and on their screens than they are sleeping, and then they come to school groggy or don't want to come to school. So help us with that part by getting them a set routine to go to bed. On a daily basis or weekly basis, but at some point check in with your child. Ask them questions like, how are you doing? What frustrates you and how did you resolve it? How can I help? Do you need help? So we've shared what you do from a school level, what we do at a district level. We shared how you can support your child at home. But we also recognize that you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. So how can you reset? Here are some tidbits on what you can do to reset and get yourself in a space to support your child and the school. Schedule self-care time. This is critical. Do some meditation, exercise, and sleep. Sleep is probably my #1 thing that will help you to deal with your anger, your anxiety, frustration, all of that. Anything in that realm, sleep helps. Most often when someone's experiencing a difficult time, their sleep is affected. So their body does not have time to reset and give all the organs, the brain, and everything, all the oxygen, and restore itself. So sleep is critical. Now, when you're overwhelmed or frustrated, try an activity to pause and breathe. And if that doesn't work, remove yourself or the upsetting situation from you. If none of that works, listen to music, write a book, or read a book. If that doesn't work, or you can do all of this, drink some water, cold water that helps to calm you and gets your body temperature down. Now we're going to try this little activity just to reset ourselves because you got a lot of information. So I'll ask you to stand upright. Inhale. Let's go ahead and inhale. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Take another breath in and another breath out. One more time. In and out. Now do me a favor. Look down at your feet And instead of the floor, visualize another you beneath supporting your feet. So like a mirror, kind of. So again, look down at the floor, at your feet, I should say, and instead of seeing the floor, visualize yourself supporting your feet. Now look up and visualize another you around your head, and you can smile at them, it's okay. Then inhale again. Exhale while feeling supported from breath and from beneath and above. So now you are in line. Now parents, we're going to do a checkout. I know I went through a lot of information, but on a scale of 1 to 9, how are you feeling again? Using the same remarks I used for the dogs before, all 9 of them. Place your number back into that chat. Did your number change? If so, let's discuss. Teachers, at this time, let's go ahead and put about another 2 minutes on the clock to have some discussion. If no discussion, let's go ahead and move on to the next activity. Parents and caregivers, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day to spend with us this evening. And now I'm going to turn it over to our teachers. But before I do that, my name is Keisha Gibbons. I am the DEN AP. You can reach me at keishagibbons@apsk12.org or 404-802-5932. And I'm here to support you, the staff, and our students in ensuring that they have all that they need to be successful and productive human beings.